If you want to explain for the people why you have a large cum stain on your shirt.
You want the truth?
We want the truth, bro.
The truth is, when you're a dad, you reach a certain point where you're just not paying attention to anything. Like, half my clothes, like, I'm just not as fashionable as I used to be. It's more just like grab something, and then I sometimes get to the office and I look at myself and I'm like, when did I stop caring?
What would you say is the number one biggest 1 or 2 lessons you've learned in fatherhood? Like the biggest shifts that you've had?
Good question. I would say patience is a huge. Patience is a big one. I've learned to definitely be a lot more patient, which is translated in my daily. You know, when I get into when I go into like a rabbit hole, for example, and I'm stressing out about something and I just get in this mindset, like things have to be done in, yesterday. I go in that space. I'm like, all right, well, because you can't, when it comes to parenting, like that's one space there, you have no control over it. It's just a constant troubleshoot. So I think like patience has been a big lesson for me. And it's always that. I mean, kid has a fucking meltdown. He doesn't want to fucking eat. You're like, dude, eat your food. Just like, then you go,
You have to balance.
I want a bagel sandwich.
That was a fire bagel sandwich you made this morning.
You're welcome. Just using an example.
Yeah.
But if I made the bagel sandwich for Maxie, who requested a bagel sandwich, go through the process, beautiful, get some arugula on it, a little salt and pepper, do the full thing. I don't cut corners, especially when it's for your kid. You want it beautiful every time.
Yeah.
Slide it over. I'm good. I don't want a bagel sandwich. I love this, but and you're just like, "Rrr." That's where the patience comes in.
Yeah. How do you think about raising your kid with very little entitlement, right? Because I think one of the greatest gifts my dad gave me was really just making me work for all my shit.
Yeah.
And like, if it was education or something that was going to help my personal growth, he wouldn't have an issue paying for it. But basically everything else, I was just on my own.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, man, because I see a lot of kids growing up and their parents have affluence and wealth.
Sure.
And it seems like a very easy thing to do, to shower your kids with just things which equivocate to love, but it's not really love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you think about that?
Well, talking about just like materialism and just accessibility, our parents didn't have that. Like when we were growing up, right? Your kid wants something. Max at 3 years old, he understands the idea of Amazon. It's fucking crazy. It's like, yeah, you do the thing and it, it shows up the next day. And I have to constantly reiterate, like, this is a norm. And that's something I've been pushing. It's not easy, trust me. And it's a constant work in progress, because you don't want your kid to be some spoiled shit, coupled with like, we're in Naples, Florida. Max is in a good, one of the best private schools, preschool, whatever you call it, nursery school.
Yeah.
In Naples. And there's definitely a lot of privilege there. And, he comes to him, I want this. He doesn't have the mindset of like needing things. It's just, he gets excited. And then you got, your grandparents around the corner. And your aunt, your uncle, like, it's tough, because you can't be like, stop spoiling your kid.
How early are most kids getting access to phones these days?
I mean, that's on the parent. Like, that's something that I've talked about. We've been talking about. Like, I don't want to buy him a smartphone. One, I'm thinking the play is you get him a flip phone, that has access to just calling us and sending us a text message. And obviously, depending how things roll out this year, we're hedging a bet in Costa Rica, however that looks. And guess what? Phone service sucks there.
Yeah.
You got to be creative on things that you do. I mean, what's awesome about it is like, you're in nature. So like, use your imagination. There's so many things to do out there. You just go for a hike, be in the woods, be in the jungle, go for a surf, go in the ocean. Like, and that's kind of the mindset that's attracting us, is that like-minded mentality in the community. It's like, we don't want to be in this matrix, but people that are here, how do we support each other, and how do we raise our kids with similar values. The school, there's Waldorf schools there that are really incredible. I mean, schools.
Are Waldorf schools related to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel? And
totally different, but I like that idea. But that's a good question. Is it? Fact check.
Yeah, I don't know. I could probably. But Waldorfs are fucking.
I don't think
nice.
so. I think they're so nice.
Actually,
so comfortable.
Random cheat code. The best almond croissant I've ever had is from Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Las Vegas. Huh. And it's crazy because I've been to like France and Belgium and Italy. The best almond croissant I ever had, Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Las Vegas. Whenever I go to Vegas, bro, literally I'm there 3-4 hours. Coffee, almond croissant.
Are you a crispy croissant guy? Or are you like a nice, soft little crisp?
I don't like it. I don't like it being, I'm not a big like fluffy croissant guy. Mm. So I like it like more crispy, right? It's got the sweetness, but not too sweet. It's the perfect croissant there. They have it down
butter,
to a T.
Extra butter.
Down to a T, bro. Down to a T. So, we were talking earlier about politics. You said that you were just you're hedging your bet, outside of America if a certain candidate, I guess, wins in November. It's interesting, right? Because there's nothing more matrixy than being immersed in like the political conflict and situation. And it's almost like this attachment to like knowing what's going on. And it's also like angering and frustrating to see the hypocrisy happening in our own country. It's like, we're America.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be better than this.
Big time.
You know what I mean? It's like, how did we get into a position where literally the former president, President Trump, should have been killed?
Twice.
Yeah. And like the Secret Service, the FBI, like they clearly fucked up and they were so negligent. And somehow, some way, this isn't even getting talked about.
Did you see the clip where like she was like tripped on her shoelaces and was like fumbling with the gun? Like what's going on? Is that how you remember the Secret Service? Like, don't you remember them being these like military ops? Like,
yeah. Well, even when
it looks like the B Squad.
Not even the B Squad, bro. Not even the B Squad. I remember last time I went to New York City and I was in Times Square and I was just looking around at the NYPD officers, and pretty much every one of them was a short, overweight woman. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yo, I remember when 9/11 happened, like NYPD, like those were the heroes of our country. That was like that was the symbol of strength.
Yeah.
Right? And everything that's happened in the last few years in America, just pushing this DEI agenda that completely negates like how qualified you are to do something. It's more obsessed about just checking these boxes. Okay, we got someone who is this color, this gender, this pronoun into this role. And it's like put ourselves in a very dangerous position, bro. It's crazy.
Forgetting the mission. Like, what is the mission up top? These ideals around like, what is the cause? What is the mission? But who are we trying to fit the job for?
Yeah.
And how do we get there? And when it's like you said, it's all these other things that are fucking immaterial.
You're an entrepreneur, you're building a business. Like, how much do you pay attention to that stuff, right? Because ideally, at the end of the day, it should really be about finding the best person for that position, who's most qualified, who's most aligned with your company values and vision. So I'm curious to know, like, do you let any of the external narrative about like DEI and anything impact the way you operate your businesses?
Listen, we're a small, medium business, so it's not about checking boxes. For me, for the most part, the people that I have found, the staff that I have found over the past few years have been incredible. But it's been an energy. If there's a jive, if there's a good fit, right away if their ideals are in line. Aligning yourself with the people that share similar values, that goes back to the mission of your company. if they are mission driven and you're mission driven, like it's a good fit, and they're all about what the cause is, and important causes today in the U.S. like we were talking about before.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, bro. I'm curious to know, going back to like, I was just looking something up, going back to like raising your child, right? And the values and vision that you have for that journey. One of the most disturbing things about healthcare in America is that the most profitable business model for healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies in America is a sick child.
Yeah.
Right? And what's so mind-boggling to me is within the first 24 hours of being born in America, kids are given a hepatitis B vaccine, right? And the way that a child can actually get hepatitis B is through contact with infected blood, semen, bodily fluids, needles, right? Like, how is a baby going to be exposed to that in their first 24 hours? Yet they're given this harmful vaccine right off the bat.
The question is why?
Exactly.
What's the agenda?
Like, who can actually answer? Because I asked my dad, who's a very well-respected doctor.
Right.
I've asked many of his colleagues, and they literally can't give me a real reason why kids are fed this poison within their first 24 hours of being brought into this earth.
Right.
So there's that.
Did you ever have that question? Did you ever think about that 3 or 4 years ago?
No,
Since COVID?
No, I didn't. And then another stat that's absolutely mind-boggling that I saw a couple weeks ago is that in the 1980s, the rate of autism with children was 1 in 2,500. Okay? Now, in America, 2024, it's 1 in 36.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous, bro. That means that 3 out of every 100 kids in America, on average, is somewhere on the autism spectrum, right? Just 40 years ago,
It's wild.
3 out of every 10,000 kids.
It's wild.
So clearly there's something really broken in our system. A lot of it has to do with food quality, soil quality, just the poisons that we're constantly pushing. So what are your thoughts on, and I'm curious, did you guys have like a classic childbirth in a hospital? Did you guys do a doula? Like, what was that like?
Well, Max was born during the height of COVID.
Yeah.
So we were lucky to have options, which was very, I was lucky because there was a period right before that where the father couldn't even be in the room with the mother during the childbirth.
So crazy.
Yeah, terrifying. I was lucky they just opened that up. And in addition, like, the doctors were still trying to troubleshoot policy, well, during that time period. So there was a big question mark. So yeah, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear that went into to Max's childbirth with us as parents. I would say, unfortunately. But you know what? We made the best of it. That was the most important thing. The love was in the room. It was funny. Like, we just did our best, what we could control in that situation.
Yeah.
So I mean, we made the room in the hospital as much as we can like a spa. We had the smells, we had the scents. It was all about just creating calmness. That was like super important to both Shannon and I. And I think, all things considering, we did the best that we could. And being a first time, being parents for the first time, and that being our first time experience with childbirth, truth be told, like, you don't know what you're doing. You do your best. But yeah, it was scary. It was terrifying. In addition, I don't talk about this a lot, but 3 weeks after Max's birth, he had an accident. And we were back in the hospital for a week, troubleshooting. Terrifying. You're 9-pound, 10-pound, you're a little baby. Did
they push a vaccine on Max, like right as he was born, pretty much, or do you remember?
You mean like a COVID vax or any vax?
Hepatitis B vax, anything?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, they probably gave him a vaccine. We just were not. We weren't thinking about that then.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't question the system. And now I think we're in the space right now where people are waking up and saying, why?
No.
What you do. You trust your doctors.
Yeah.
You trust the pharmacy. But I think that trust it's going away.
Yeah, there's a new level for me of waking up when I was literally living, like when COVID started, I was living in a beautiful building on the beach in Miami Beach, right? And I lived there for 6 months. I didn't actually get to go to the beach once. Just fucking crazy. We snuck there. But that was like a huge awakening for me when I was living on the beach in Miami and COVID was happening and they literally had caution tape on the entrances to the beach. And my friends and I, we tried like going in for night swims and stuff like that or to watch the sunrise. Bro, within 5 minutes, patrol officer. Within 5 minutes, bro, all of the outdoor gyms caution taped.
Yep.
So I'm like, wow, you're closing the beaches, you're closing the gyms, you're closing the parks, but what is left open? Oh, you're leaving liquor stores open.
Right.
You're glorifying liquor stores.
Yep.
So you're basically discouraging people from getting outside, being healthy, but you're encouraging people to drink and numb themselves.
Distraction.
Exactly. And that's when I realized, I was like, yo, this is so fucking dark. The fact that liquor stores are considered essential business, but parks, beaches, and gyms are considered dangers to society.
That's right.
That's when I knew that the government does not give a fuck about our health.
Not at all.
Very clear.
And or healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare. Is there really care in our health? Absolutely not.
No.
I mean, we've got great healthcare here, with my employees. It's a fucking mess. Anytime we need to do anything, we're fighting for every single situation. They make it so complicated, and we're lucky. We've got advocates, that fight for every little bill here. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough, and it's broken.
Yeah.
And it's broken.
Obamacare was probably one of the worst things for healthcare in America. The one thing that Obama kept preaching, I remember, was healthcare for everyone, healthcare for everyone. And again, having a dad that was a doctor in the medical system, my dad would just constantly just say like how horrible Obamacare was.
Right.
Because first of all, it was terrible for doctors.
Yeah.
They were bombarded with they literally were seeing patients nonstop, no time to actually connect with the patient, 7 to 8 minutes average appointment time, right? People who want to see the doctor, what a shit show. What a process to try and actually see a doctor that you need to see. And everyone was losing from that other than pharmaceutical and healthcare companies.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's crazy. Yeah. Healthcare in America is really just sick care.
Sick care.
Because the only way healthcare companies in America make money is when you're sick.
Yep.
Because a patient cured is a customer lost. So their greatest intention is to get you on a medication and then keep you on that medication. And then the side effects of that medication require you to take another medication. And then it's just this evil cycle.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people, bro, are falling victim to this. It's devastating.
It's so broken. And you have one sick person in your family, it trickles off. It trickles out to the next person. I mean, I watched it with my mother, what she's gone through over her whole life, but specifically over the last year, and just, how much stress it's caused with my dad. And we're concerned that he's going to have a heart attack. And now he's going to the doctor, and it's just like, let's just write a script for this. Dad, do you remember? They're just so used to this cycle of go to the doctor, trust the doctor, they're going to give you, they're going to steer you in the right direction. And it's funny watching my dad from that old school generation finally saying the system's fucked up. It doesn't work. It's no shit.
Yeah,
but even trying to force feed dad, there's other ways to do this. There's other alternatives. It's interesting, seeing a pretty conservative dude having conversations about ketamine, having conversations about psychedelics, being open because he's so sick of running up against the wall over and over and over again. It's just sad.
At the end of the day,
and the stress that comes with it.
If you're not getting the results that you want, you have to just take a step back and just be like, what is going on here? What's the deeper root cause? Even what's so mind-boggling, and I really do not watch the fucking news, right? I'll listen to some podcasts that talk about politics, but I really stay away from the news, whether it's CNN, Fox, whatever it is. But sometimes I'll just turn it on for 10 or 15 minutes to see the type of commercials that are in between segments. Dude, 70% of them are for pharmaceuticals.
Big time. Pharmaceuticals.
So you realize that this ecosystem stemming from big pharma, coming to big food, coming to big media, and you see exactly why these politicians are slaves to pharma. They don't actually care about the health of Americans, which is why I think it's so refreshing that RFK came into the picture. You know, unfortunately, he never really had a chance to win, right? But him hopefully joining with Trump will have some sort of positive impact on health in America because he genuinely cares.
Yeah.
That's what's different about him. He genuinely cares about the people of America. You know, in a real, genuine, authentic way, you can feel that.
Yeah. He wants to do right.
Yeah. And
he doesn't have another agenda.
And that's exactly
just wants
why
to do right. And it's funny when you see an authentic person, when you see people that are really out there doing the right thing, it's funny to see the other side of the fence finding every other reason to make them fall.
That is just that's such a clear indication of where our country is,
Yep.
where they won't provide RFK Secret Service. They won't provide him security. And dude, this guy genuinely is, I mean, obviously what happened to his dad, his uncle, etc. But the dude genuinely cares. Like I don't understand how anyone can disagree with RFK. Like, honestly.
Right.
Like
with his policy.
With
what he wants to do to actually help this country.
Dude, like, that's what I'm saying. That the policies are what matter. The problem is, bro, I really start to realize this, and like, especially even just like reading some of the messages recently that are coming to me, most of society is wounded. Mm-hmm. Most of society has unresolved traumas.
Yep.
So when you have people of power who have all of this trauma, all of these unresolved issues emotionally, how do you think they're going to lead? How do you think they're going to react when they're given power? They're going to abuse it, right? Because they're operating from that energy.
Right.
And we're seeing that so clearly right now. What happens when you have unhealed people take a position of leadership?
Sure.
And when you have someone like RFK who's like very pro health, holistic health, plant medicine, he understands like, hey, this stuff will actually heal humanity if you give it a chance.
But think about it, man. I mean, we have natural ways to heal.
Yeah.
That government can't necessarily control. Why do you think they'll find every other reason why not to make it work, right? So there are these options out there.
For sure.
I mean, even like, listen, man, let's be real. Like, you know, we met yesterday. We had a good conversation. Like, we all go through our modes where we have our breakdowns at some point. But we have the tools to shift them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why the availability of these opportunities to kind of take control of your power, they don't want you to control your power.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to put fear in you. It's easy to say, hey, here's a pill. Solve it with anxiety medicine. Solve it with this.
Yeah, I was feeling so shitty yesterday, bro. And then going to the beach and just taking some breaths, jumping in the ocean, just having a real conversation. That was the best medicine. That's what I needed. Yes. But the doctor's never going to prescribe that. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if we actually prescribed real medicines to people who are going through tough, challenging times.
Right. Right.
And not only that, it's empowering when you realize like, hey, you know, I was going through this really shitty moment and experience, and I was able to get myself out of it and without any drug or pill.
Yep. And it was really cool to witness just that simple, small experience. Watching you shift from like, listen, we all go through shit. We all get in our heads at times. To be able to shift you out of that and be like, all right, it was just a moment in time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, We're all okay. Sometimes you need a connection. You need someone that, has your best interest to say, dude, just take a breath. It's going to be okay. And you get through it, man. But
Yeah.
I feel like our society is just, hey, man, it's a lot easier to just go in your pocket and take a Xanax. Do some fucking breath work. Go swim in the ocean. Go for a walk. And we felt great. How great was our day last night? How great was last night?
It's a vibe. We had Mike in the yarmulke, bro.
Yeah, man.
My guy.
Yeah, we had the Bear Jew.
I would gladly bring Mike. If I had a sister, I would let Mike date her.
Yeah.
That's just a quality guy right there.
Yeah, man.
Good intentions, good values, good heart.
Well, little meatheady, but
I love it. I love that meathead energy that Mike gives because it's it's just like sweet meathead
Feels
energy.
good.
It's not like
it's like sweet
douchey.
meat.
Yeah. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
How do you balance when you're going through your different processes of building your company, scaling your company and stuff? How do you, as the leader, balance being the leader, being respected, and also being open and vulnerable and transparent with your challenges and obstacles?
I think I shared a bit yesterday with you on that conversation. I had to learn some very, very hard lessons with that specifically. As a leader, as an entrepreneur, I didn't have partners. I didn't have these, I didn't have investors. I kind of had I had to figure this thing out on my own.
Yeah.
Which was a blessing, curse. I don't look at it as a curse, but a lot of lessons on the journey. I had this mindset, I would say in the early days, that vulnerability was a weakness.
Right.
So I would just show up like A game, alpha, boom, this is how it's going to be. Trying to control every facet of the business. The business it's a working heart always. You got valves, you're pumping it. You got to stay fit. But I think for me specifically, when things got really hard, I wasn't really looking at it in the face. I would absorb it and not release that energy. And I packed that down. I packed those challenges down. Not those challenges. I packed those, those hard emotions that I didn't want to deal with, the stress, the anxiety. I packed it away for years and just showed up with this kind of inauthentic face and kind of aura about me for years. And it surfaced. Literally, I was having health issues. I'd show up in meetings and my lip would swell, my eye would swell. And that was for me just not dealing with the stress. And where, now I'm able to look back and be like, all right, well, this is how I do it differently. I have real conversations no matter what the outcome's going to be. I think fortunately I'm finally in a place where, the business is running again, pretty optimized with a completely different staff where they have the best intentions for this company and themselves. And it's perfect. It's not a hockey stick how it used to be, but you know what? We have wins every day. We're hitting singles. We're hitting doubles. And the mindset of the organization is completely aligned. And which is great because as opposed to when I had the mindset of just I want to control every facet, now it's I let it breathe. I let it work itself out. And I kind of take the approach with pure, I'm here to serve you. Where do you need me? And everybody seems to just rally all the time and solve problems and we get it done. So, I approach it more of a space of service. I've also hired, CEOs to help me run the company. And they know I'm here when they need me. And it's different and it's great. But now it allows me to build other businesses like this. It allows me to work with folks like you, work on grit, allow the flow for other opportunities and businesses, which I'm having fun again. The cup's full. I'm not pushing up against energy where I'm just letting energy just organically happen and not fight so much, if that makes sense. I don't know if I answered that question, but
I think you did.
What about you, man? What about you? What, to be in the best space of energy for you and your business, what does that look like?
Honestly, this type of shit, bro. I was telling this, I just brought on this COO, who I think is amazing to kind of oversee and like build out systems and
Yep.
kind of do the things that I'm not good at, all the op shit. And at the end of the day, I told her, I was like, listen, when I was starting this, it was out of genuine joy and a desire to help people. That's why I started everything I did. And I can't tell you the last time where I actually felt super happy and connected in that business.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's all just been like banging my head against the wall, trying this, trying that, hiring this. Like, it's just not fun because I'm completely out of my zone of genius. You know, I'm not connected to my creativity. I'm not focused on the big picture, my vision of like why the fuck I even started in the first place.
Yep.
So I'm in a space now, bro, where like there's 3.5 months left in the year. Either the business is going to grow and it's going to be able to operate without me being that involved, or it's going to dissolve. Like, those are the two options. And at this point, obviously, I hope it's the first one. But, dude, I literally feel like I've done everything possible to make it work and to make it thrive. And, yeah, bro, we'll see where it is 3.5 months from now.
But do you think there's something that you're forcing that's preventing it to flow the way that it should be energetically?
You know, dude, I think like I was telling you, the biggest thing I would tell any young entrepreneur or someone who is like on a path of building something is do your best to find an aligned co-founder or partner. I did everything on my own, bro. And at the end of the day, I have unique strengths and gifts, and then I'm mediocre at a lot of things.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing the things that I'm mediocre at, right?
Yeah.
There comes a point where you have to kind of do everything when you're getting started.
Sure.
But I think if I could go back, like I would have just delegated and found good people way earlier. We would be in a completely different space now. And at this point, bro, I just have such little excitement about it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it does. Like, that's why I brought on this COO. Like, quite frankly, I financially, it's going to be a challenge to actually make it work. And I told her, I'm like, listen, this is my last ditch effort. You know what I'm saying? Like, I told her, I'm like, I'm completely surrendering. Whatever you say to do that you think is best. You've helped grow and scale 2 wellness and psychedelic companies. You know more than me. Just let me know when you need something from me. But like, I want to disconnect from it as much as possible. So I feel like at this point, bro, that's all I can do.
Well, you're surrendering.
Yeah. Because at some point, it's like I tried the micromanaging thing. And what I've realized in this journey is that 95% of people are just born to be employees.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And I think we live in this society where everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur without actually doing the hard work and feeling the hard work.
Yeah.
There's no straight line in business.
There
never is. And I think you and I share that commonality of like building a business by yourself. It's a fucking lonely journey, man.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And
It's
you don't see anyone post about that on Instagram, right? Like you see people, these 22-year-old life coach entrepreneurs on Instagram. They got the Lambo, they got the private jet, like whatever it is. But very few people are actually sharing what real entrepreneurship is like. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of highs because when you birth something and something good happens, something successful happens, it's a great feeling knowing that you played a role in that growth, in that transformation. And on the other side of the spectrum, like everything's your fault.
That's right.
When you're an entrepreneur, every single thing that happens is your fault. Even if I have someone on my team who just completely is negligent, doesn't do their job, I have to somehow take responsibility for it and be like, what could I have done better? Oh, I could have given you better instruction. I could have been more loving and compassionate. Bro, it's fucking exhausting. That's why I'm like, Yeah. Like at this point, I'm only concerned with working with people who are just like as committed and dedicated as I am. And, dude, everyone else, honestly, like I don't want to give energy to anyone that is not reciprocating it.
Well, that's the goal. This is where it becomes fun. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't realize the lessons that you needed to learn or have been learning along your journey, and it feels a bit hopeless. But when you sometimes take a step back from that experience, you realize like it's actually a gift. And, I feel like, as we're getting to know each other, like it's happening exactly how it's things are happening exactly how they're supposed to happen. And you gotta trust the universe a bit more, as cliche as that sounds, not you, just in general. But when you start recognizing the superpowers that you may not have, and you start building around that and finding those superpowers to kind of put in place, I mean, it becomes fun. I mean, it's kind of like this, what we have going on here at Grit, all these little things and these opportunities and these businesses that are spawning from it.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just like, it's just organically happening, and finding people and talking to people where we have the gaps and some of us don't have certain experiences or skill sets. It's finding those right people that are just that crush it in that space. And it just starts working and it starts breathing the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And I think you're a bit in that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just honestly, there's been so many times, and especially in the last year, where I've just really wanted to quit entirely.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when do you know if it's time to push through or pivot?
Yeah.
Right. And that's been something that I've been kind of asking myself. And there's times where I'm like, I feel like quitting, and then I'll disconnect. I'll take some time and space, and then I'll be like, okay, like there's an opportunity here. Let me put some energy into it. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. And to be honest, man, that's happened multiple times. And I've just invested more money, resources, energy into it. And at the end of the day, it's not getting the results. So for me, it's like I know the potential of what could have been. And it's one of those things that is like, I'm really just doing my best to not ruminate on the mistakes I made and on the things I would have done differently. And because quite frankly, I've been building something the last 3 years, like I was telling you, that may or may not have $0 of transferable assets. And that's really demoralizing, because like I'm a really fucking smart dude. I'm super talented. So to think I'm in the position I am with having very little assets to my name is it's really disheartening. It's really sad, bro. It's really sad. But at the same time, it's
Well, listen, man, you worked your ass off. You've built an incredible platform. You're not hitting a wall. You said it right. You said it just now. Like you're in the process of pivoting.
Yeah.
And in that journey of the unknown, it's uncomfortable. And sometimes when it gets uncomfortable, that's where the best things happen. And just trust it, man. Like, I know it's hard it feels heavy right now, but the opportunities are there. You still have a platform.
Yeah.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like, dude, you've got the platform. It's a matter of, all right, you're doing a great job. Pat yourself on the back. And you've tried certain things that may not be working, and you're hitting a wall. And those are just the lessons that are going to make you better.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a quitter, man. You're a survivor, and you are a fucking warrior. And you know that. And you help so many people along your journey. I mean, you've told me some great stories. Like,
thanks, buddy.
Don't forget those. It's easy to be in the space that you're in, to forget the wins and the people that your vulnerability, how transformative it's been for other people. And that allows them to be open. Like, dude, without that doesn't happen. Yeah. So, and it's funny. It's like, and I asked you, we had this conversation earlier. It's like, there's certain confidence that I may not have. And you're like, dude, like, look at what you've done. I'm like, what have I done? Like, you need the homies around you. You need the crew around you just to remind you of those little things.
Yeah.
So we're all super critical on ourselves.
Yeah, I think man, I was thinking about this morning and I was like, it's so much easier to stay asleep. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why 80 to 90% of people in this country pretty much just conform to societal norms and stay asleep. They settle for a 9 to 5 job they don't love. They settle for a marriage that is mediocre, because it's way easier and more comfortable to just settle and just not even really understand what is possible.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's really what I define as the matrix, is like staying confined to these boxes.
Yeah.
But once you understand how limitless you are, you can't help but be extremely ambitious.
Sure.
And on the other side of the spectrum, when you're extremely ambitious, bro, for me, like, I don't give a fuck about anyone else's, like, where anyone else is at. I'm not comparing myself to you and be like, yo, man, Ben is so much more wealthy. He's created this. Like, he's just on a different, like, for me, it's, dude, I'm just comparing myself to what I know my highest self is capable of creating. And when I see myself falling short of what I know I'm capable of doing, it's really fucking disheartening. Yeah. So I'm working on really just being kind to myself while still having the same level of ambition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's really hard to balance that, bro. Like, that's, people can tell me, oh, you're crushing it, you're helping so many people. And to be honest, dude, it doesn't really mean shit to me. Like, I love when people tell me how much something has changed their life. It means the world. But like, people just throwing it doesn't, because it's shitty to say it, but it's like, bro, no one understands what I'm capable of other than myself.
Okay.
So I know that I'm squandering so much potential and so much of the impact that I was put here to create, and knowing that I'm not fully stepping into that, bro, is really disappointing. And for me, it feels like I'm slapping God in the face every day.
But do you think you're putting way too much unnecessary pressure on yourself that you definitely don't need? Like, why put that angst? And
yeah,
again,
I mean,
you talk about, like, we all do it. Listen, I always come, and it's a fucking horrible habit, and that's something that I've been working on. It's just like, I should be here, but why not? We're here for exactly the right reason. The universe is putting us in the spot right now. Than saying I should, like, why, dude? Like, I know it's cliche and it's easy to say, like, you're healthy, right? You got your health, you've got a roof over your head, you're able to eat healthy food, like, you've got the things in a line. It's just shifting it.
Yeah.
You're okay, man. It's perspective.
Dude, I'm grateful for this therapy session. I've never actually had a therapy session in my life. I got to a point where I was like, bro, should I fucking hire a therapist? And then I was like, nah, they're probably gonna just tell me to pop a pill or do something. And I was like, I think I have the tools and the resources to get through this.
You do, but I got to tell you this. I've done talk therapy for years. It is helpful. And sometimes you have to just work your own voice out.
Yeah.
And having someone that's biased just hear you out.
Yeah.
And they spit back exactly what you need to hear. I mean, listen, I've had therapists that I've sat in the room like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
But, you got
to find a good one.
Like anything else, you got to take your time to find the right. But it's super helpful, man. Like, I'm in a headspace right now where I'm like, dude, I need to go see a therapist again.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have good people around you that you trust to be a soundboard, to give you, sometimes tough love and a reality check. But it's good to have a therapist.
Yeah.
Try it out. Don't be shy.
So shifting the attention off of me, man. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to? What's something juicy we could get into that might stir some people? Might trigger some people. We can talk about Judaism. We can talk about Israel.
Let's talk about that. I mean, that's something that we've bonded on. And vulnerability, man. It's tough to be a Jew right now. It's hard to be a Jew. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But we're getting a lot of shit. We're getting a lot of slack. And I think the reality is we've been in the space for many and many years. Like we've just had a really good run, and it's been good until it stopped being good. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I never thought in a million years we'd be in the space of anti-Semitism.
It's crazy, right? Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it's almost been a year since October 7th.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much been a year since I personally started getting back into Judaism, doing Shabbat dinners, wrapping tefillin. And in that time, it's really revealed to me who is supposed to be in my life and who is not supposed to be in my life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've also realized that a lot of, what's crazy, I mean, everyone knows. I mean, it's no secret that Jews tend to outperform our population size, right? The Jewish people are 0.2% of the world's population. 0.2%.
Yep.
Okay. And 22% of all Nobel Prize winners are Jewish.
Yep.
You look at the world's wealthiest people and over 20% of them are Jewish. And I've realized since connecting with a lot of really successful Jews in the last year or two, bro, most of them are really, really connected to God, and they're very connected to these values of just being a good, kind person, a committed husband, a committed father. And it's really inspiring because I think I used to have this narrative that, like, if you give so much time and energy to religion or to God or whatever, like, it's going to steal away from your ability to actually be doing work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the beautiful thing about Shabbat, for example, is it's a day of rest. Like, you work for 6 days and then you have this beautiful 24-hour period to reflect, to relax,
Turn off,
to cultivate clarity with your goals, your aspirations, your dreams, your intentions, your family. And most of these really successful Jews that I've met all observe Shabbat.
Yeah.
And it's not even a negotiable for them. It's like an absolute essential thing. And they've all pretty much told me, like, listen, this is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Is start keeping Shabbat. So it's definitely something that I want to start implementing, like I was telling you. And yeah, bro, at the end of the day, one of the biggest things I realized when I was there in Israel over the summer is that, and I hate using the word like side, right? Like one side, this other side, because again, it's like we both sat with ayahuasca and had different experiences with plant medicine. One of the greatest lessons you learn in that experience and journey is oneness, right? We're all part of this creation. We have so much more in common than we do disagree.
Yep.
But the world is so divisive, especially when it comes to stuff regarding Israel.
Yeah.
But when I was there, bro, every single Israeli I spoke to, you don't hear anyone coming from a place of hate, right? You don't hear anyone saying like fuck Arabs, fuck Muslims. No one, bro. No one. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have many of these Muslims growing up in Gaza, the West Bank, that are literally being told while they're 2-3 years old to like throw stones at Jews. The Jews are evil.
Yep.
In
Hatred,
fact,
fear.
Exactly. Like your life's purpose is to kill the Jews.
Yeah.
So when we talk about deep systemic issues, right? It's a very hard thing to address when you have this population that's basically indoctrinating young children with saying like Jews are the cause for all of the world's problems, and the greatest thing that you can do in this life is kill a Jew.
And what do you get when you kill a Jew?
Oh, you have
When you
how
blow
many
yourself-
virgins?
When you blow yourself up and kill a Jew, and you go to this sacred place with virgins and all the food you want, and everything is good. Everything is...
Exactly.
How fucked up is that?
And then on the other side of the
Right.
spectrum, here's the biggest, this is another thing, and I know some of this might like trigger people, but I think at the end of the day, the reason why Jewish people have been so successful for generations is because we never play the victim.
Nope.
How easy would it be after all of these different persecutions, the Holocaust, but there's so many things over the last couple thousands of years, right? Where, first of all, it would be very easy for the Jewish people to be completely extinct.
And we are survivors.
Exactly.
It's in our DNA.
And at the end of the day, even with October 7th, you don't hear Jews or Israelis playing victim. No. They're like, okay, how can we make the situation better moving forward?
Yep.
Right? And when you come from that energy, you're going to be successful because you're focused on solutions and not always bitching and complaining and talking about how everything's unfair.
Yep. And
when you go there, people just need to go there, man, and really experience it because it's such a different frequency.
You brought up something yesterday that reminded me when I was in Israel, Shabbat in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It's like to experience suddenly, you're hustling, you're bustling, it's Friday, then suddenly sundown starts happening and then it is quiet. And where's everybody? They're with their friends, they're with their families, and they shut off. And they're with the people that they love, reflecting on the week or reflecting of what's really important. And I don't think we do that enough. I mean, last night was special, man. Like, it's funny. I mean, think about it, man. How we barely know each other. And it was like, all right, man, we're going to have Shabbat and we'll figure it out. And, it wasn't just about Jews, right? It was 3 Jews and 3 Gentiles or 4 Gentiles.
Yeah.
And we had a blast and, we were busting balls about it. But like, I think for them to have that experience was special.
Yeah.
And, whether it was someone who was Muslim, like that's the irony, right? Like how accepting are Jews? Like, we don't care what race you are, where you come from. Like, you want to come down and have a meal and break bread if you're a good person, and we're there for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's just tough because we're very misunderstood.
Yeah. Well, that's like another thing that people will never actually fully understand until they go there, until they go to Israel, is for the first 2 weeks I was staying in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And the place I was staying was right next to an Arab neighborhood. So we would literally be like on the walking trail and you would just see families that are Muslim walking by. You exchange pleasantries, right? Every one of my taxi drivers was Arab and I would ask them questions. I'm like, so, do you feel safe here? Do you enjoy living here? They're like, we love it. We have opportunities here. And then you have all of these people on mainstream media and social media saying, oh, Israel is an apartheid state. These people are just so ignorant that they'll spew all of these words that they don't even understand the real meaning of, right? Because if you go to Israel, you'll understand that over 20% of the population is actually Arab. And they're fully immersed and embedded in, the Israeli population.
Doctors, government.
Exactly.
Lawyer,
and they have all the same rights as Israelis. And guess what?
And they can vote too, right?
And those 20+% of Arabs that live in Israel are so grateful they live in Israel instead of Lebanon, instead of Jordan, instead of Egypt, instead of Iran, all of these countries that essentially are run by terrorist organizations, right? With the exception of Egypt. Right. But dude, it's so frustrating because I see when I'm there, I'm just like, wow, if only these people could actually see like how ridiculous what they're saying is. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly that. That's the silver lining, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, man, it was special being out there. There's so much trauma. At the end of the day, there's so much trauma in Israel. Like every single person pretty much has some level of PTSD.
Yeah, man.
Because
talk about like, the bombs and the missiles that were coming in on a daily. Like, what did that feel like?
One day in Tel Aviv, in the heart of Tel Aviv, right? Which typically you don't get rockets and missiles landing in the center of Tel Aviv. But one morning wake up and literally like hear sirens and commotions maybe half a mile away. And it was the day that I think it was coming from Lebanon.
Right.
And dude, like a half mile from where I was staying, they freaking sent a missile to a building, just a residential building in Tel Aviv. Crazy, bro. Crazy. I slept through it. It happened at like 3 or 4 a.m. But it's a different level of and what's crazy is also that people misunderstand. You know, I'm getting messages every day when I'm there like, hey, are you okay? How are things going in Israel? Like, what's the situation? And I'm like, bro, I've never felt safer. Yeah. Like Tel Aviv, bro, is the most unbelievable city in the world, in my opinion. Yeah. And the vibe there right now is even more incredible because everyone who's there is choosing to be there during a time of war. Right. So tourism is way down, but the Americans who are there, the British people who are there, the Australians that are there visiting, helping, like there's such this camaraderie of like, we're all on the same team.
Pride.
Let's just give as much energy and love as we can. Yeah. And that honestly, if I would say that's been the greatest thing from this last year. This is definitely the most challenging 12 months for me in my life, far and away, in pretty much every realm of life. And I would say the best part, without a doubt, is the strength and connection I felt to Judaism, and spending that time in Israel was absolutely unforgettable. And at the end of the day, it's I hate doing this because I know it can sound divisive, but I think being part of the Jewish community is the biggest blessing and the biggest gift in my life right now. It's like, wow. I just feel a tremendous sense of connection and love. And I lost probably over 35,000 followers in the last year for simply just like rocking my Jewish star, being proud. And I'm so grateful in that process because first of all, I would never want to be friends or do business with anyone that is going to just hate me because I'm fucking Jewish. Right. Like, peace out. And in that process, like, so many Jewish people just like hit me up and they're like, yo, we really appreciate you just stepping up and being proud.
Dude, I got to tell you, that's why I started following you.
Yeah.
When I heard you messaging me, I was like, you know, what can I do to support you? And I think that's like an innate, we have that trigger. Like, how do we support each other? We're always there to support each other. I mean, you have one-offs, of course, but it is a special community. And it's not just about Judaism. Like I said before, we're here to support. We're here.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
but it's tough though. It's tough. I don't know about you, but I feel it affects my psyche, like the negativity, the hatred. You feel alone, and I think this is where community comes in. You know, at this time specifically, to be able to have the support when you need the support.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to like your rabbi?
The last 12 months exposed me to like a different perspective of Judaism where I wish I would have had access to it earlier. Meaning, I think the reason I lost connection to Judaism, and a lot of kids do when they're in their teenage years and 20s, is because, at least for me, I just lacked a connection to any rabbi that I came across. Like, there's no rabbi that spoke the same language as me.
Yeah.
There was no community that I would come into where I felt fully welcomed and not judged a little bit for being less religious, for like looking the way I do, for talking the way I do, whatever. So finding Chabad and connecting with the Chabad community in Miami Beach, bro, they just made me feel so loved from day one. Like Shabbat dinners, they would meet me wherever I was at in the city and wrap tefillin on me, like go out of their way. And that just showed me honestly a new level of love. And then connecting with these different rabbis who are super religious, but they're also very spiritual. Yeah. And they're connected to Kabbalah and they're connected to all of these different teachings. And they understand that, you know, your breath, your body, your health, like all of these things are massively important in building your connection to God. Because the truth is, I had and I still do, I have trouble connecting with a rabbi or a super religious person if I see they're super overweight and they're like drinking a bunch and they're smoking cigarettes. I'm like, you're this person who's claiming to be super connected to God. You're always preaching about gratitude, but you don't take care of your health. So how is that aligned with your message? Because if you're grateful for this body, for this vessel, if you're grateful to God for this opportunity at life, then I think you would do something to show that gratitude. Move your body, eat real whole foods, don't poison yourself. So for a while I felt this disconnection because these rabbis almost felt like frauds to me.
Yeah.
Where it was like they're preaching this message, but the life they're living isn't a life that I want to live. But then I started meeting rabbis who were healthy, who were happy, who had beautiful wives and happy children. And I was like inspired by it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is a new model that I could actually get behind.
Yeah. We actually have 2 Chabads in the community down here in Naples and in Bonita, and it's a wonderful community. Max goes to the Chabad, and what's pretty interesting is the school system is incredible. A lot of it is, it really is. If you see the school, they have this beautiful space. It's outside. They put so much attention on just like letting your kid, obviously from like age 2 to I think 4 or 5 years old, just being a kid and keeping them creative and you can see the critical thinking that your kid comes back to. And what's interesting is you would think being a Chabad based, it's called Preschool of the Arts, PODA, that it would be, I think mostly Jewish kids are there. 20% of the students are Jewish, which is really interesting. And I mean, they observe the religion, but it's also the way that like no one's pushing religion down anyone's throat.
Yeah.
But they're observing, and they're also observing different holidays as well. And the Chabad does a really good job. And they are super welcoming and open. And
amazing, bro.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that? How cool is that wherever you are in the world, you could be in Lake Atitlan, Guatemala. You could be in Athens, Greece.
That's right.
You could be in India.
Yeah.
You could be in the most random place in the world.
Yeah.
But most likely there is a Chabad in that town, in that city that will welcome you for a Shabbat dinner,
Right.
for a free place to stay, for a free place to nourish yourself. Like, I don't know any other group of people in the world that has anything like that, bro.
And it's so easy. And there's no judgment. It's like, hey, come on in, have dinner with us. What do you need? Like there's just complete surrender of being of service. And it's beautiful.
Such an interesting time we're living in, because especially, being in the spiritual space, right? Like I was saying. And so being in the spiritual space, I mean, I host events that are involving like deep healing and mushrooms, right? So it's all love, it's all oneness. And on the other side of the spectrum, there's the reality, there's good, there's evil. And I think, and it was crazy because Dustin and I, we organized this fundraiser for MAPS Israel in Miami. Rick Doblin came in and basically because Rick's Jewish, and he was basically saying everything that happened October 7th and afterwards, he said in his lifetime, by far the most divisive event in the spiritual community, like far and away.
Interesting.
Where, you have people really heavy on this side and really heavy on that side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's like the irony of that spiritual woo-woo space, right? It's all oneness. But is it really when things get really hard?
No, it's not. It's not. If there's one thing I've also learned this year is that many spiritual people are not spiritual at all. Spirituality is such an easy mask to use to pretend like you are operating at this elevated vibration and consciousness.
Yeah.
And in my experience, bro, so many of the people who claim to be most spiritual, sure, they might be charging their crystals, they might be reading their birth charts, and they might have their full moon rituals. Like some of them, bro, are horrible people.
And the most broken people.
Yeah.
And there's no fixing it. It's on trend.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's on trend.
And that's why I'm like, I'm honestly, like these last 6 or 7 months, I'm actually like kind of pulling back from the spiritual community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because yeah, dude, I've seen a lot.
There's a lot of bullshit.
And I've witnessed a lot, and I'm just like, interesting.
Who is that person?
Yeah.
What are they really doing? Are their intentions pure? And I've seen it too, man. I mean, the first time I sat with medicine, I think it was like 2014. Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it definitely opens you up. And at that point, like, I don't want to say it wasn't on trend, but like no one was talking about ayahuasca. No one was talking about psilocybin. It was like, don't want to talk about that. Just that, like, you were almost like the weird guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're doing that? Are you fucking crazy? You know, when I did my first ayahuasca journey and talked to my parents, this is probably 10 years already. They were like, so you're doing drugs? You're doing drugs? Is this what you need? Go talk to a therapist.
Yeah. That's always funny.
It's always fun.
Those conversations are always funny. When it's like someone who is super judgmental about
Right.
plant medicine or mushrooms. And in the meantime, like they're taking antidepressants every day. They're numbing themselves with alcohol on the weekends.
Xanax.
They're in a toxic marriage.
Yep.
They're living a life that is pretty toxic and mediocre. And then they're judging you for using an alternative medicine to actually
Heal and do work on
Yeah.
yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, at the end of the day, to each is their own. But yeah, man, it's an interesting space that we're in. I think at the end of the day, I feel called to just deliver massive amounts of truth during this time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've shed most of the layers of being liked or like, being validated externally. I think I've really navigated and pushed through and worked through most of that to the point where I'm like, bro, I'm just an open book. I'm just going to share the real shit. And that's actually a good place to be.
Big time.
It feels very liberating.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I realize the people that I have attracted into like our coaching and my live events, so aligned, bro.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you attract like that type of tribe and you repel like the people who are just on a different frequency. It's amazing.
But it elevates you too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
yeah.
elevates you to be better.
Yeah.
It elevates your game
For sure.
to level up.
Yeah, man. It does.
How do you, like, I don't know if I had the following that you had, how did you handle like the anti-Semitism when people were just flat out anti-Semitic slurs at you? Like, did it affect you? I mean, did it hit you emotionally, or were you just numb and you're like, fuck it, I don't care, delete?
Yeah, I think
Or was there any point you were like, it hit?
I think the first month or so when I was just receiving like such malicious messages, like the worst things you can imagine,
Yeah.
right? Like, go to hell, you dirty Jew. Like, you're a piece of shit. You should join your ancestors in the oven. Like, those are all messages I received multiple times.
Yeah.
And then, it honestly kind of forced me to double down. I'm like, wow, the hate for Jews is so real and people everywhere are trying to deny it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm actually going to expose all of this hate. I'm going to expose all of this shit because all these people that are saying, oh, like anti-Semitism, like it's overplayed, it's exaggerated, it's not really happening. I'm like, are you looking at the percentage of hate crimes happening in every metropolitan city in America and around Europe?
Yeah.
They're disproportionately all like the amount that are happening to the Jewish people in relation to the actual population of Jews is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, bro. Like, I went to Europe and everyone when I was going, especially my parents, they're like, you have to tuck in your star. You have to tuck in your star. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to Paris. Every fucking Parisian is going to know what's up.
Yeah.
Right?
Did anyone say anything to you?
Well, it actually caused, yeah, dude, Paris was a horrible experience. I fucking hated, like, France, Paris. Like, I've had a couple good experiences, but I wasn't wearing this when I went. But yeah, bro, like, even just arriving to the airport, going through customs.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's actually, I was in the UK. I felt I'll share with you. I had a really aggressive anti-Semitic situation when I was in the UK. But I want to hear your.
No, even so. Obviously, I never got my luggage in Paris. Who knows why that is? But anyways, even I was trying to get a cab from the Paris airport, right? Literally like an 8-minute cab, dude, to this hotel I'm staying at.
Yeah.
And I hear, these 3 or 4 cab drivers, they're like arguing, they're talking. I'm like, can one of you just give me a ride? It's literally 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't care what it costs. I just want to get home. It's 1 a.m. And then, this was going on for 5 to 10 minutes and I can't understand shit. Right. They don't really speak English. So finally, someone who was like witnessing it on the side, I asked them, I was like, do you speak English? Can you tell me what's going on right now? They're like, yeah, basically they're saying that they don't want to drive you because of your necklace. And I was like, really? That's what's happening right now? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So I literally, bro, like.
That's real.
Yeah. And I probably waited 45 minutes to get an Uber.
No shit.
Yeah, because I couldn't get an Uber at the airport. I had to walk somewhere to get an Uber at like 1 a.m. in Paris, bro. It was just like a complete shit show. And at the end of the day, I feel bad for the Jews who live in Paris, London. I think those are horrible places to be Jewish.
Big time.
I am grateful. Like Miami definitely is probably the best place in America. Yeah, to be Jewish. It's like a really strong population.
Yeah.
Shabbat dinners, safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's also a kind of like primal aspect to it, right?
It's like survival.
Yeah.
That sense of like your senses are definitely up. At least mine, especially when you're in Europe. I mean, you're going through the airport. You're looking around.
Italy's super chill.
Yeah. I was in Italy last year. I felt safe in Italy. I didn't feel safe in the UK. I was in France, but I had no desire to go to Paris or France. I don't have a desire to go there, at least from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I feel like my nervous system has just been in fight or flight the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like seriously. Especially after October 7th and I started sharing things. I literally like everywhere I was walking, bro, I was just like watching over my shoulder.
Yeah.
So I had to like train myself to kind of be able to relax at night going to bed. But it's taken a while.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Did you have any incidents when you were like, I don't know if you went out and about in France where someone actually said something to you aside from the cats?
No, I didn't go out there.
Because you didn't feel safe or you just.
No, I literally was just there for a stopover. I shouldn't even have been there, but gotcha. But the one time in Israel that was a little scary, this last trip, was I did a one-on-one tour in the old city. And my tour guide, he's like, hey man, do you want to go to the Dome of the Rock, the other side of the Kotel, which pretty much is banned for Jews.
Sure.
And I was like, dude, I would love to go there if it's safe.
Yeah.
Sure. And he's like, yeah, bro, like they have this 1 hour period in the afternoon where like non-Muslims can go visit. So I'm like, all right, bro, like I trust you. You've gone through all the training here. You've been there multiple times. So we go through, no problem. Obviously I'm not wearing my necklace. Like there's nothing.
Did they tell you to take your necklace off?
Like my tour guide said, just, you don't want to wear any of that stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we go in, we get through, no issues. And, bro, I get up there and it's just, dude, it's super peaceful up there. It's like this garden and there's not that many people. And dude, it's magnificent. This Dome of the Rock is beautiful. And we go walk up to it and he's like, hey man, like this is a really good spot if you want to just say any prayers. So I just literally close my eyes and just do this. Like I'm standing. That's all I'm doing. Yeah. Just saying stuff to myself. And this guard who's there comes yelling in Arabic, bro. And I guess it's this Jordanian guy who's working there. And I didn't understand it, but my tour guide spoke Arabic and he's like, yeah, man, apparently he said, we have to leave. Like there's no praying. And like, there's nothing that indicates I'm Jewish. Right. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on right now? This dude is just going crazy, bro. And then he comes up to me. He's like this. He said, none of that fucking spiritual bullshit here. And I was literally just like this, bro, like praying by myself.
Wow.
And so we're about to go to the other side.
Yeah.
And then we go to, this guy's following us. He's trying to get us kicked out of the area. And then the tour guide grabs some of the security guys there who are Israeli. And the Israelis come and like tell this guy, this Jordanian, like, listen, bro, your job is to fucking clean the floors. Like, why are you harassing this kid? He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So it ended up being fine.
Yeah.
But it was sketch for a minute. And I'm not the only one.
It's terrifying. That's scary.
Yeah. If he was armed, he would have for sure fucking like launched on me. But I don't think he had a gun.
Huh. But it's scary.
It's an interesting dynamic. I'm glad I had that experience. And I'm also glad I had it because it's something you would never see happen on the other side.
Right. But but you know what? Like, kudos to you.
Yeah.
You have a real life perspective of what's going on over there. Versus everybody that's in the States that has an opinion that should have no fucking opinion.
Yeah.
You like, go see what's going on.
Exactly.
If you're so passionate about a cause, go over there.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Go fucking in Gaza.
Yeah.
Go see how it is, pal.
Exactly. All of these free Palestine people, I think they should really just book a flight,
right?
Spend some time in Tel Aviv, spend some time in Jerusalem, and then, hey, spend some time in the West Bank, spend some time in Gaza. See how your experience compares. See if you make it.
See how the experience is.
Exactly.
And then have, figure out how it feels for you.
See how you're treated. And quickly, if all of them actually did that, which obviously is not possible and is not going to happen, like all of these people would be faced with the truth.
Right.
Because once you're there, you see the truth.
Or if you're gay.
Yeah. The gays for Gaza, bro. Let's talk about the gays for Gaza. There's nothing more hypocritical in the world than these gays for Gaza protesters. You realize that if you were gay in Gaza, you would literally have your dick chopped off within seconds. You would literally
strung up and tossed.
And they would, not only that, they would do this shit publicly.
Yeah.
Like they don't accept gays, transgender. They don't accept any of that shit in these radical Islamic countries. That's just a fact. You can go there and see. Meanwhile, you go to Tel Aviv and it's one of the gay capitals of the world. I'm getting hit on left and right by gay dudes.
Yeah.
Right? You're seeing girls kissing.
No one cares.
Like, exactly.
No one cares.
And that's what's just so ironic. These people are just so fucking ignorant. There's no other way to put it, bro.
Right. But if you're so passionate, get on a fucking plane and go experience it for yourself.
It's the same thing I say to all of these people in America who are burning American flags. You see this shit in Washington, D.C.? Right. They're literally burning American flags. If you don't fucking like America, bro,
leave.
Fucking leave. Go anywhere else.
Exactly.
See how you're treated. See how life is. We shouldn't even let, like, I love freedom of speech. It's what makes America America. It's what allows us to have this conversation right now. But bro, the fact that there's people in the nation's capital burning the American flag and celebrating and chanting death to America, you should not be allowed in this fucking country. You should be deported to the fucking streets of like Bangladesh or anywhere.
And that's one thing. Listen, if you don't agree with Israel policy or if you're anti-Israel, okay, you're entitled to that. If you're an American. But if you're burning American flags and talk about how horrible it is here, then leave.
Exactly.
Go there.
Yeah.
Go find your cause.
And honestly,
get the fuck out of the country.
Let's be honest. When Trump was president, you didn't see people burning American flags in the nation's capital. You didn't see people wearing hijabs and acting and dressing like terrorists and supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. Like, bro, you have like that is, if you're gonna look at nothing else, I think the number one priority for a country, for any nation, should be safety.
Agreed.
right? You want to be safe in the streets, walking with your kids, walking with your wife, walking with your family. You want to feel safe going to the park and not worried about being attacked or robbed or raped or any of these things, right? Just look at the safety of America in the last 4 years. You literally have people dressing up as Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists, burning American flags in the nation's capital. You have illegal immigrants who are just committing heinous crimes, okay?
They're eating the dogs.
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're eating dogs or cats or whatever. I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, that's true. But you literally have places like Portland, Seattle, New York, LA, San Francisco, these cities that used to be some of the best places to live in the world are now literally open air drug centers. You walk in places in San Francisco, bro, you could be in a $20,000 a month apartment. Across the street, there's people literally shooting up, overdosing on fentanyl, shitting in the street. That wasn't happening when Trump was in office. Let's be very clear. So if nothing else matters to you, safety should matter. Safety for you, safety for your family. And if you just look at America in the last 4 years, it is significantly less safe. We've defunded the police. We've supported all of these ridiculous movements. Like, bro, it's technically legal to steal anything under $1,200 in San Francisco. You have people literally going into Best Buy, like stealing devices, and like the cops can't really do anything. Nothing. Well, there's no cops actually, but like even the employees at the store, they can't really do anything.
And then you have the politicians up top, some politicians up top, saying that this is okay. These people, they don't have any other choices. What?
Bro.
What do you mean they don't have any other choice? How about get a fucking job? Go get an old-fashioned job. Work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's crazy, bro.
I think we also live in this world too, where it's on trend. Like freedom, it sounds cool to be a freedom fighter, right? It's on trendy. Wrap your head up, put some cool shit on there, cover your face, run around, cause chaos. These fucking kids don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about.
Bro, it's wild. It's wild that...
But how are we going to hold these kids accountable?
Yeah, I think obviously parenting matters, media matters. That's why it's so important to have people like Elon Musk who just obviously didn't have to buy Twitter, but he saw that there's a huge shift, a negative shift happening in the world. And he's like, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. That's the type of shit we need. Because at the end of the day, less and less people are relying on publications like the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN. People are starting to wake up and understand these mainstream media outlets are complete bullshit. They're not actual real journalists. They're just people who have radical ideas and they'll do anything to push their narrative.
False narrative based around fear.
Exactly.
Let's keep people freaking the fuck out in this country right now.
Yeah.
Because what does it do? It creates divide.
Yeah.
And who's behind that division? Who's behind TikTok?
China.
And what's the media that's being spit out on TikTok? Not all, but let's be real. I mean,
well, think about what we were talking about this when these boys were in Miami, right? Like, what would you do if you wanted to really weaken a civilization? Okay, what would you do? You would make genders confusing, where people don't even know if they're a man or a woman. You would put tampons in the boys' bathrooms. You would put fluoride in the water. You would hand out antidepressants and Adderall like it's candy on Halloween. You would spray the soil with glyphosate. You would make alcohol and porn easily accessible. These are the things you would do if you want to destroy society. And then you take a step back and you look at America in 2024 and you're like, oh shit, all those things are actually true.
Yeah.
And our society is crumbling.
It's all distractions.
Yeah, exactly. So it's wild, bro. It's a wild world. Wow. But it's cool that we have the freedom. I've been very open from the jump. I told my parents and I told my brother, I'm like, if Kamala Harris somehow wins the election, I'm 1,000% moving outside of America. It's not even 99%. Like, I already have my plans. These 2 or 3 places, I'm not going to be here. Not saying that her winning is going to drastically affect my life, but bro, I just could, that would absolutely disgust me to a whole new level. And I just think it would be the real downfall. Like we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've pretty much seen what's been going on the last 4 years, bro.
Well, look how weak we are.
Oh, bro.
And it's interesting, not to dive deep into politics, but like her narrative is talking about, you know, where we need to be in the future. It's like she's in office running the fucking country right now.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you doing this now?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting also just seeing the types of people that are leaning towards the right or like voting for Trump and being more vocal about it. You look at them, they're pretty much all successful guys and women who like care about their health, right? Who care about truth, who care about safety, who care about just a better civilization. And then on the other side of the spectrum, like the woke mob, the people who are voting for Kamala, it's like they have 6 jabs. They're still wearing their fucking mask 4 years after the fact. They're eating fucking poison for food, right? They're still numbing themselves with alcohol and antidepressants. Like there's a huge shift happening. And if you look at the people who are the woke left, they're constantly people that are playing victim.
Yep.
Right? And that's why they're voting. Like that's why they're in support of all the garbage that this
Sure.
all
Entitlement.
this,
A lot of entitlement.
bro, it's insane. That's why it's good that we're having this conversation, because again, if you suppress it, if you suppress talking about it when it's something you like are passionate about, it's only going to get bottled up and stored in your body.
Yeah.
Right? So whether we share all of this stuff like publicly or not, which I think there will be I think there will be some fire clips from this. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we can't suppress the truth. It's all coming to the surface, bro. Everything. Here's what I've also learned the last year. The truth always reveals itself, right? We started to see what's happening about the vaccine being exposed for the lie that it was, for the sham that it was, for the scam that it was. We're starting to see all of the shit with Joe Biden's dementia come to the surface, right? He was just a puppet this whole fucking time. We're starting to see the truth with people like Diddy and Epstein and like these corrupt people of power who were abusing their power, right? And did everything possible to hide it. We're seeing everything come to the surface, bro. Soon, all of the stuff about the assassination attempts will come to the surface. All the assassination of like JFK, that's going to come to this. All this shit is going to come
behind it. Who's really behind it, right?
All this stuff is going to come to the surface, bro. And that's why we got to double down on truth.
Yeah.
Because the truth is going to come out regardless.
Yeah.
So, you know, trying to beat around the bush and like be dishonest, it's just not the way to move in 2024.
No, you got to be real. You got to be real. And, you know, circling it back around about, you know, kind of the why, you know, it's so different when you have especially a young child now. It's like, it's not about what I really want. It's like, it's fine. We're survivors, man. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's like, I got to double down on my, like, make sure that this world is set for Max. What is the world going to look like for him? How do I equip him? I mean, we could look at the last 20 years, like we were just talking about that stat. What is it? Like 1 out of every 10 job interviews, they come in with their parents. What the fuck is that? Like, listen, this world is not easy. You know, it's hard, and you got to equip your kids for things to be hard, and you know, to teach your kids not necessarily to fail, but listen, things are going to get tough, and it's okay. It's okay to fall, but get up. Learn the difference between. And one thing I always say to Max is, you know, if he starts crying or if something happens, I'm like, you know, Max, are you scared or does it hurt? He thinks about it 99% of the time. So I was just scared. It's okay, buddy. You're fine. You know, walk it off, man. Give him a little kiss, give him a hug, smack him in the back. He's fine. But you got to teach the idea of falling or failing, because that's just how life is. Like, you know, listen, like you're going through it. I'm going, like we're all going through some sort of journey of like toughness, of things getting hard. And I think the way the world is turning right now, it's not going to get any easier. So if you're going to, again, lie to yourself, or lie to your kids about the reality of life, like you're just going to raise some entitled little kid that expects everybody to do everything for him and that think the world owes them something. No, man, like be a humanitarian of this world. Do something with yourself.
Yeah.
I think we're all kind of hedging the bet. Like, does this education system and do universities make sense now? I don't know. I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to throw $500,000 at the education, or probably by that time $1 million to make sure that he's in an Ivy League school. Really? No, man.
Bro.
I mean, I think that's one thing that we're doing really well with Max is just like investing in real life experiences. Told you he's had a passport since he's been like 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, we're stamping that passport for him.
That's the best thing.
He's seeing things. You know, he's asking questions. And what's really cool is from that experience is every time we come back from a different country or he's around different cultures, you can see the little shifts.
That's sick.
And the critical thinking comes
because
he starts asking questions.
So it's like, does he actually like know what's going on? You know,
dude, this is when his brain is malleable.
Yeah,
this is when he's learning so much.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want to raise him in another country? I mean, I don't know if I want to be there full time, but how cool would that be if you spent 6 months in Costa Rica with a different culture, playing soccer with other kids from around the world and learning different languages and experiencing, you know, a plethora of just multicultural and multifaceted experiences.
Yeah.
I think it's like, how do you looking at the world a little bit differently? Like, how can your kid get a taste of all sorts of different cultures and different experiences? Because that's what the world is. I mean, I got a little melting pot of a little kid, you know, he's Jamaican, he's Kiwi, he's Jewish. He's got the whole spectrum.
Damn, dog. Swaggy ass kid.
He's good looking.
I think the worst thing that any 18-year-old can do after high school is go to college.
Agreed.
1000%. The worst thing. Like, college is just going to indoctrinate you to be an employee and to have groupthink. It's not going to teach you how to think for yourself or how to really pursue your passions or find your purpose. College won't do any of those things. The best thing you can do on the other side of the spectrum is take a gap year, like I did. I went to Israel for 9 months after high school. I was volunteering. I was learning Hebrew. I was immersing myself in a new culture. I was having all of these really interesting experiences as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that was way more beneficial towards my growth than 4 years at University of Oregon, where I was probably invested $200K in getting a degree in business and sports marketing. Right. Where honestly, I can't tell you if anything I learned from those 4 years is applicable to my day-to-day life now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, cool, we had a great football team.
Right.
How many friends do I keep in touch with from University of Oregon? Like 2 or 3?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I think hopefully parents are more intentional with how they handle their children after high school.
Sure.
And not so attached to them attending like University of Michigan, University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, UCLA. Like, I don't care how prestigious the university is. They're all fucking trash at the end of the day. And they're just outdated institutions that are businesses. They are most incentivized to accept as many kids as possible and charge as much for tuition. They don't really care about the success of the students at the end of the day.
Yeah.
In 2024, you can get a better education on YouTube than you can at Harvard.
Totally.
Like, look at what these institutions are becoming. It's a fucking joke, bro. Like, college is one of the biggest scams and most expensive scams in America.
But let's forgive everyone's debt here on forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's what? Pretend
let's forgive everyone's debt moving forward.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, it's wild. It's wild.
It's a wild world. It's interesting. But again, as a parent, like, you got to give yourself a little flexibility and just like just doing your best. You know, love, you just got to show up with love, and you got to be a little bit tough too. I mean, depends on what kind of human you want to raise in this world.
Yeah.
How you want them, you know. You can see it's funny. It's like, we put so much effort and energy and love into our kid and his experience. But yeah, it's easy, but he's got consequences. I think that's an important thing. he knows if he's fucking up.
At the end of the day, every kid, regardless of how consciously they're raised, is going to have some level of trauma.
Of course.
Right? And it's like accepting that and also understanding that I think the greatest privilege in 2024 is actually being born to a 2-parent household with a mom and dad that love each other unconditionally.
Yeah.
And that masculine and feminine presence for a child is so important, because I think the mother's role is to really just provide that unconditional love and support. And the father is really there to also, provide that love and support, but from a different perspective.
Sure.
It's like leading by example. It's like being a protector, holding your child accountable, really, really being responsible in that way. And leading by example, I think, is the most important thing.
100%. I have weekly. So Max comes to the office, I think once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And he loves it here. And it's like such a gift that he gets to come here and see what's going on, and he runs around but you can see his brain turning. Like he doesn't, I explained to him the concept of work and what I do. Does he really get it? No, but he's starting to understand it, and he's starting to see, daddy's not there during the day. He's working. But I spend the time to be why you get to go to school and eat the food that you get to eat and have the vacations and travel and experiences. I consistently remind him of that. But when you start exposing him and they pick up on it.
Yeah. I think one of the most important skills for a man to learn on this journey is how to manage and channel his sexual energy towards creative endeavors, towards productive things, right? Because if we're constantly a slave to instant gratification and lust, it's literally the lowest vibration you can operate from.
Yep.
And on the same token, on the same side of the spectrum, it's a challenge, right? Because if you're a successful guy, right, and you have a lot of opportunities to connect with women in different settings, right? It's being able to have the discipline to understand hey, this is my mission, this is my vision, this is my focus. So I'm curious for you, let's say you would have been married 10 years ago. Okay, let's just pretend. You're 32, 33 at the time, you get married, you're in a committed relationship. Do you think you would have created more success from a business standpoint or less? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I gave that a lot of thought. I had to do a lot of work on my I had to do a lot of introspective work on myself to really understand love. I didn't, I had my childhood was a little bit different, understanding love, and to have a mother that loved me. I don't know if I want to talk about this, but I had to do the work to understand self-love and loving others in a different way, because you only know what you know.
Yeah.
Before I was able to really understand how to be in a proper relationship. So to answer, I'm going to kind of answer this question round and about. If I was to get married at 30, 34 or whatever, it wasn't feasible. I had one mission from my 20s and my 30s. Looking back, was it the right mission? I was just highly focused on business, because in my mind it was, all right, work your ass off, make as much money as possible, check off all these boxes, because ultimately that's going to equal happiness, as opposed, because that's what we're taught, as opposed to reverse engineering that idea, or I should say flipping that idea upside down and saying, all right, well, happiness first, and how do I navigate all these other pillars around it?
Yeah.
I was working out, I was always taking care of myself physically, but at that time, I don't know if it was a similar, kind of upbringing from your father. It was work hard. I was never you didn't talk about stress. You didn't talk about anxiety back then. You didn't talk about my dad was an entrepreneur. I was yeah, you got to fucking work your ass off, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you want all this shit, you want all this stuff, this is the path. But it wasn't all right, well, Dad, I'm stressed the fuck out. I'm physically having issues. I would bring those to him, and I would talk to him about it. he looked at me like I had three eyes. He's like, stop being a fucking pussy. Then go get a job.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, it's kind of right. On the other hand, like, that's what he knew.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was like trying to set me up for failure, but like I wasn't equipped to deal with stress. And it surfaced in my mid 30s. Like physically I was getting sick. So like, to me, it was like I was working so hard with this idea that I had to grind and kill myself so I can make money to eventually take care of my family.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the idea, right? But that says that's a flawed
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah, thanks for
And it caught up to me. Do I have regrets? I mean, sometimes, yeah. I mean, I think about like now more than ever, health. It's not just about the physical and the consumption of food and how you take care of your body. It's the mental. I mean, I think it's just as important. Your mental well-being as much as it is your physical, and that was nothing that was really talked about in my household at an early age, and it definitely caught up to me. So I had to do that work to really understand like the emotional aspect of myself, as well as like how can I show up and be the best partner for whatever that marriage looks like. So yeah, I had to do the work first to put me in a place where marriage was even an option. I mean, it was like the joke, dude. My 40th birthday, I haven't told you this. I had a Peter Pan 40th birthday theme party when I was 40. Like, the fuck? Like, talk about ultimate fuckboy. I mean, I wasn't ready. I had to do a lot of work. And when I was ready, I was like, that was the most depressed I actually ever was.
40th birthday?
When I checked all these boxes. I did all these things and I was like, this is it? I'm fucking depressed. What do I'm building some fucking 6-bedroom glass house on the water by myself. I'm just boxing myself in. And that's when I realized, all right, I really started working with medicine to truly understand it.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that came to me in one of my first journeys with One Heart was I learned how to love myself and be completely open and vulnerable in that space. Give myself a little bit more nurturing and love. And, once I started going down that path, it opened me up. And, I had to date very differently. I definitely learned a handful of lessons on that journey, dating differently and being open and vulnerable. I was never open in relationships. I would go through the cycle of dating, but like, dude, I was not vulnerable. Like, all right, fuck you. And that's how arrogant I was in relationships. I was like, all right, if you don't like me, fuck it. Someone else will. I'm out.
Yeah.
And like, I'd even go to the extent of like, I had such the same shtick. I'm like, listen, I'm not really in a space of like, we're never really gonna date. But when I'm here, we'll have a good time. We'll eat well, we'll go on dates, maybe we'll do some traveling. But like, that's about the extent you're gonna get from me. And I'd be open, but I knew what that was gonna turn into.
Yeah.
It becomes like, oh well, that becomes a challenge to them. And I don't want to say it was fucked up, but it was kind of fucked up because I knew after doing that so many times, it was the same routine. But
what do you mean it was a challenge to them? Like,
when you tell someone you can't have something, what do they want?
Exactly. Oh, so they would like try to make it work and
yeah. And then
you knew that was
to that
like
point, I'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I told you what was going to go on, but it became a really empty, soulless journey.
Yeah.
And I realized I was like, I've done all these things. I've been blessed. I've been to do some awesome things, build a great business, meet incredible people, travel the world. But it became lonely. I was like, I want a partner, but at this state where I was at, I was like, there's no fucking way I'd be able to have a partner. So I actually had to do the work. I had to have some hard lessons. I had to actually put business on hold.
I feel like it's so interesting how no matter how often we hear stories like this, like we still have to almost go through it ourselves.
Yeah.
Like I feel like as a guy, it's like I have traveled to some of the most amazing places. I've had sex with some of the most beautiful women. I've had just really cool life experiences.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, I can realize that all of those things were super fun and enjoyable. And I'll never forget some of those experiences. And at the end of the day, those don't equate to a happy or fulfilled life.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
It's like coming from a space of really just being fully aligned and understanding I'm not doing any of these things for like validation.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a product of me living an authentic life.
Yep.
Right? And this is what I'm attracting.
Yep.
And not doing it for any sort of, I think what happens too, like a lot of like, I think guys are also, there's like this competitive nature,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is healthy. Like I love competitive shit.
Sure.
Like I have a sports background. So I think it's healthy to have some competitiveness in your life. And it can also take a turn for the worse when it's like you're doing things because of the aesthetic of it. It's like, yo, I'm going to date this girl. She's super hot. I don't really like her like that, but I know like the dudes are going to be like, yo, that dude's like with a bad bitch. You know, it's just like, it's actually just like so silly though at the end of the day.
Why do we do that?
It's like using, it's crazy how humans use other humans as trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Like parents use their kids all the time as trophies. Like, hey, look at what college my son got admitted to. Hey, look at what my dad did. Or having a beautiful partner by your side. Even though it's not like because that's your life partner. It's
Can I
because
ask you a real question?
Yeah.
Okay. If you had to choose, okay, you've got, a 12, absolutely stunning, beautiful, top notch, but personality on the inside, they're like a 3. Outside, they're like a 12. But then there's the flip side. You have someone that's not attractive, obese, but she's a fucking personality of 15.
I mean, out of those two options,
That's it.
I mean, honestly, if those are my only two options, I'm going to take the smoke show.
We still resort to going back.
Yeah,
to
but
that.
that's an extreme example because, again, I really do think, like, even the girl I was most recently with, bro, absolutely stunning and great personality.
Yeah.
Like, really a lot of things that are in alignment. So I don't think it's like has to be this extreme or that extreme. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that's one of the challenges with understanding your worth.
Right.
It's because you refuse to settle for something that's mediocre, average, or even good, right? It's like, I know deep down inside, it's like, I deserve just like an absolute goddess, a divine feminine queen to be my partner for life. So it's like, I'm not just going to settle for something that is good enough.
Right.
You know, it might be a great option for someone else. It might have been a great option for me when I was operating at a different frequency.
Sure.
But like, for me, man, it's just one of those things that I also don't think I've ever really prioritized it. Like, I've never been like, yo, this is I'm really committed to just attracting like my life partner right now at this stage of my life. So I think there's also like that level of intention that goes into it. But yeah, bro, I think for sure. Yeah, there's one of the things that was coming up when you were saying that with your dad, about how he raised you is I was mentioning Patrick Bet-David. I don't think you're familiar with him, but there's 3 phases of every father-son relationship. Mm-hmm. At first, you idolize your father, then you demonize your father, and then you humanize your father.
Yeah.
And I think this is so applicable to the father-son relationship dynamic because I remember for most of my childhood, like I look at my dad as my absolute hero and inspiration. He's my role model. And by the way, he still is. And then as I get into my high school years, college years, like I start to see some of my dad's flaws. I start to rebel against some of what he says because I'm like, you don't know what's best for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then as I get older and I see my dad get older, I just see my dad as like a beautiful human, flawed. He has imperfections. He has traumas. He has wounds that he's never healed.
Sure.
Right. And I also just see him for an absolute incredible man who's like sacrificed so much to be such a dedicated father and husband.
Yeah.
And who has an incredible work ethic. And I think these are 3 steps that are inevitable in every father-son relationship. It's like right now, Max, you're his hero, right? Like, and that's probably going to last for quite a few more years.
He's in mama's boy phase right now.
You know?
He's in mama's boy phase.
And
still suckling.
And, but yeah, bro, at the end of the day, I think that's like a good place to be when you kind of have this humanization of your parents.
Yeah.
And you kind of, it makes everything less tense. Cause it's more like, that's what plant medicine's great for too, right? It's like you start to maybe you have resentment towards your mom or dad for what they did do or didn't do when you were a child. And a lot of times these plant medicines will show you very clearly like, oh, wow, you know, my mom, she had her own shit, her own trauma, her own challenges growing up as a little girl that never got resolved. And then she brought that. She didn't know any better. She did the best she could with the tools she had. And like when we're able to have that level of humanization, it allows us to actually remove some of the resentment and practice forgiveness, which I think is a beautiful space to be in. And another reason why it's actually really beautiful when I see like a mother-daughter come to one of my ceremonies or a father-son. I think it's beautiful to see like that intergenerational healing happening.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of coming up in one of my journeys, that's something that surfaced was like, I was holding on to resentment and anger. And what came to me was like, why do I want to carry that? Like, come from a place of compassion towards your parents, because you don't necessarily know their true experience.
Yeah.
And that shifted a lot of things for me. It's just like showing up from a space of compassion and realizing, like you said, like your parents just did the best that they could. Yeah. And as a new parent, like you just realize like you're doing the best that, you don't have the playbook. You just do the fucking best that you can, and you're going to fuck up. Yeah. You're going to make mistakes. And, you just do your best to raise a good human being and just treat them how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah. I was telling my dad this as we wrap up. I was telling my dad this like last week. I was like, man, why don't you and mom come spend more time in Miami or South Florida? Yeah. Like it makes 0 sense. Like that you guys, like you worked your face off your whole life. For what? For freedom, right? Mm-hmm. To spend time with your loved ones, right? Yeah. Like what else is more important?
Yeah.
And I was telling my dad, I'm like, when I was in Italy, bro, it's very common to see children, parents, grandparents eating dinner together.
Late too.
Yeah. And like you have this beautiful collection of these different generations, like sharing this experience.
Sure.
Dude, I can't tell you the last time I was in America and I saw kids eating a meal with their parents and grandparents at the same time.
Without an iPad.
Exactly. And this is one of the things that I think has been lost in America is just like the family dynamic.
Yeah. Bro,
we don't value family in America like they do in other places.
Big time.
Here, family is like, it's an unappreciated luxury. Like I meet kids and they live 20 minutes away from their grandparents. Right. And I'm like, how often do you see them? They're like, maybe once a month, once every other month. I'm like, bro, all my grandparents are dead. I would do anything to be able to see my grandparents and have a conversation with them. Sure. Meanwhile, in America, bro, unfortunately, we haven't been oftentimes, and there's obviously exceptions, but I feel like, I think it has to do with also like work becomes such a priority that you almost forget about other shit.
And why we're doing it.
Yeah. And it's at the end of the day, bro, like it's sad, man. It's, that's one of the things I see, even in Israel, you see, and it's like all these people are just bro, they're super connected to their family.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing that matters. And I'm like,
What are we doing this for? Why are we chasing the dragon?